Welcome to the media track at Augmented World Expo 2020. I'm Brian Leckie, executive producer at XR production company Octa Studio. I came to XR from television. I started my career at the BBC and then directed dozens of documentaries for Discovery, History, National Geographic and PBS. And I was also one of the directors of Mythbusters for Discovery. Currently working on several exciting XR projects, including Mindbenders VR, a science education VR series hosted by some of the former Mythbusters. And today we have some great talks and discussions related to media. And if you have any questions for our speakers, please enter them in the text chat adjacent to the video stream. And I'd also like to remind you that there are the VR side events that are listed in the agenda. And if you have a VR headset, you can take part. And also, the Augie Awards will take place on Friday at 11:50 a.m. Pacific time. And AWE encourages you to post to your social channels using the hashtag AWE2020. And all the sessions will be recorded and made available on demand. Finally, the AWE team would like to extend a big thank you to our titanium sponsors for their support. HP, Microsoft, Qualcomm, Unity Technologies, as well as our gold sponsor, Plug XR. And our first talk today is Leaping Off the Screen, Next Gen Storytelling at ViacomCBS with TimAdams. As the media landscape continues to segment, technology is pushing the boundaries of how media companies are connecting brands and audiences. Tim will tell us how his company is doubling down on innovation to extend brand narratives through the use of spatial computing, augmented reality, and voice interactivity. Again, there will be a QA session at the end, so please, if you have any questions for Tim, please put them in the text chat. And join me in welcoming Tim to this talk.
Hey there, thanks for having me, everyone. My name is TimAdams. So I head up the Emerging Products Group at ViacomCBS. So ViacomCBS is a recently merged ginormous media company that contains brands like CBS, of course, but Showtime, Paramount, Nickelodeon, MTV, Comedy Central, and more. So my job is really fun. I actually get to think about those brands and how can we bring new emerging interactive technologies to the fore for our fans of those brands. So how do you bring augmented reality, for example, to fans of MTV or fans of Nickelodeon? And so we'll talk a little bit more about that today, but very consumer focused, very fan focused. So as part of a media company, I wanted to start today with sort of a fairly provocative question that we'll return to throughout the presentation. But that question is, what happens when the streaming wars end? So the streaming wars, as you probably know, are fully raging right now between a lot of media companies, especially in the year of 2020. They kind of come out every couple of weeks or every month. There's a new direct-to-consumer video streaming app. So here's a look at a few of ours. It's the ViacomCBS. There's CBS All Access, BET Plus, Noggin, Pluto TV. There are more as well. And we also know some of our competitors out there, of course, like Peacock or HBO Max, Disney Plus. And so as this streaming wars kind of rage on, it's an interesting moment to think about these giant media companies who are going from kind of linear television or broadcast or cable and bringing their entire video libraries and creating new originals as well for these direct-to-consumer apps, essentially, that live on digital, namely on mobile devices and some OTT devices, of course, as well. And as they do that, right, they're taking sort of, it's a very video-focused thing. It's essentially saying what you could get on TV now, you can get here, and it's all on demand. It's all available at your fingertips for a monthly fee. But it's primarily focused on video, right? We're still kind of working with the content itself is still in a format that worked for a previous destination, which is a fairly non-interactive TV screen like the one you see here. Limited interactivity, really no interactivity, just kind of watching video playback provided to you in a linear fashion. You can do on-demand playing, then depending on what service you have, but that's been the destination for these media companies, including mine, for decades and decades, and it's been very successful. So as we move to these new form factors and these new devices, it's interesting to think about the capabilities that are there that weren't on this screen. So for example, cameras. So here's a look at the new iPad Pro camera. That in and of itself, there is a camera on the device now. That's a huge kind of revelation when you think about it. But that camera also can detect your real world space. So it's understanding that that's the kitchen counter, that's the chair, that's the backyard. And it can augment that reality, as we all know, and put new things into it. So what does that tool of augmenting someone's space through their camera really bring to the tool set of storytellers and brands like ViacomCBS? It's a pretty interesting question, right? And it's here today, and everyone essentially has this capability in some fashion at the moment. Another one is voice interactivity, right? So voice interactivity, voice commands, as we know, exist on our mobile devices through Siri or Google Assistant. They also exist on things like the Fire TV Cube, which is a huge device for our audiences that we're seeing more and more penetration in the market of. And you can use your voice to control every part of the playback or the media experience on your TV. Devices like the Amazon Echo Show, the Google Nest Hub, which you see here too, are also voice-first devices. And they're extremely prevalent, right? And they're only growing more and more every year. A lot of market penetration of these. So what does that unlock, right? In this tool set of new capabilities for giant media companies, what does voice interactivity kind of bring to the fore in terms of storytelling? And to kind of cap all this is Matthew Ball is a great media critic. I recommend checking out his stuff. He wrote for Redef a great article about interactivity and immersive entertainment. And he kind of lists in a chart here all of the capabilities that come with these new devices and these new form factors that didn't exist on the previous ones. And what does that do for storytelling? So I recommend checking out his work generally, but he calls out here some things like the gyroscope, the camera, your photos, your address book, facial tracking, and more. It's sort of limitless, the amount of stuff that is there for you. It's just figuring out what to do with it, right? And what is it going to entertain fans? So that kind of comes to my big question in this kind of world of the streaming wars. What will fans do next? The streaming wars will not end, right? It'll be just media companies competing against each other forever, hopefully forever. But the question is kind of what is the next battlefront, right? What's the next battlefield? And I would argue that since the main touch point has this in this main device that fans meet the content, has all these capabilities, it will be interactivity, and it will be using some of these emerging technologies to differentiate content in the future. So what ViacomCBS does with interactivity and emerging technologies might differentiate it from its competitive set. And so that's what my team does, and that's where our focus is as the emerging products group. And when we say the word next, we really mean kind of now into the next 2 years, right? So there's a lot of looking at emerging technology and thinking very far afield, right? And thinking about headsets and VR and AR with the HoloLens and other devices. And we have actually folks in our company like Ted Schilowitz, who's a futurist for ViacomCBS, we work a lot with, who's great, who focuses on those things. My team is really focused on how do you productize this stuff that exists today, right? These are form factors, and these two interactive kind of technologies that I've listed here exist today on your device in the moment, right? So voice interactivity and augmented reality. And they're going to become even more and more ubiquitous over the next 2 years. So not everyone has these functionality, feature sets, or capabilities yet, but they certainly will in 2 years. So what do you do with that? And that's kind of the question we try to answer. And in doing so, we do a little bit more than just kind of research and discovery. We really try to find product market fit. So we try to identify these opportunities of what's in a fan's hands today, right? What features and capabilities can we take advantage of to create new experiences today? And knowing that they're only going to grow in their kind of prominence in a user's life. And how do we develop experiences based on the kind of usage behavior we see on those devices, launch something to market, and then learn, evaluate, and iterate, and bring those learnings back to the larger company. So ViacomCBS can decide, hey, we put a lot of investment in these direct-to-consumer products. Now, this team has been kind of looking ahead as to what we can do next on these products to really differentiate them and bring more interactivity and more entertainment to our fans. So in one example, this is kind of the fun part now, I'll show you an example of an app we built called Do Not Touch. So Do Not Touch is the first AR app for kids by Nickelodeon. And it's a great kind of history of Do Not Touch as an IP. It's been something that's existed in our apps and our sites now for the better part of a decade or more. And it's this shiny green button, and it says do not touch. So of course, every kid will touch it as soon as they see it. And when they do, we present them with a bunch of Nickelodeon humor and irreverent kind of skits, little mini games, and just funny jokes. And it's kind of this endless stream of stuff that's always been coming out of this button. So what better opportunity to evolve this than AR? So that's what we did. So inside the Do Not Touch app, which is for iOS, we launched with just dozens and dozens of games. It's a truckload of delightfully weird AR games and experiences, and each one of them is different from the next, right? There's really no repeating or cookie cutter fashion to this. So I like to now kind of cut to this video where I can walk you through the app a bit and show you how it works and what we've built. So if you could cue the video, please. So the app is called Do Not Touch. It's free for iOS. And we put a lot of effort here, as you can see, kind of into surface detection, making that super easy for kids. And when you touch the button, you're going to get tons of different experiences. So here we have Whack-A-Monster, which is a really great, beautiful game, in my opinion, where you're earning points, and these points are going to add up into your meter. This is all a bit sped up for the demo. But there's other experiences that are totally different. So here's a world-changing kind of experience where you put on these night ghost vision goggles, and boom, all of a sudden your town or your backyard becomes kind of a haunted ghost village, and you can find ghosts, and there's really no objective to it other than observing. And as you play these, you earn points and you unlock more content. So we have around 100 pieces of content between games and new buttons and new activities in the app. Here's SpongeBob, the most iconic Nickelodeon character that exists, in your real space, blowing bubbles. And then there's other fun activities, right? Just watching a refrigerator party out and rock out with all the kind of condiments inside going crazy. They get quieter as you get closer because they get scared of you. And of course, here's a poop jumping up toilet paper to a high dive to jump into a toilet, and a Bigfoot that you can shave shapes into his back. So with each of these, it just gives us a chance to really try something new and really experiment with AR and how kids are entertained with it. And so we've used this app as a exercise for that. Here's a portal that you can actually go into the portal and see a slime factory in action, which is super fun for kids. And here's our Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards. Blimp spraying slime all over the place. You can spray it onto your siblings or your pets or your room, wherever you see fit. So that's a little bit about the app. And I want to show you a little bit more about just kind of how the app is done and some stats really quickly. When we launched the app for iOS, again, it's free on iOS only at the moment. We were the #1 app, AR app in the iOS App Store in the month of March 2018. And at the end of end of 2019, we were in the top 10 overall, excuse me, for AR apps, which was great to see. It's had a lot of great reaction from audiences. We see kids playing it for upwards of 10 minutes every session on average, actually. That's not the upwards, that's sort of the average number, which is really positive for a kind of a mobile snackable game. And it's loaded with content. Like I mentioned, it has 100+ games. It's won multiple awards, Clio twice. It's won the Kids Screen Best Game of 2020. It's nominated for Webby Now, which is fantastic and has great reviews. So that's a little bit of the accolades and sort of the stats around the app itself. But the thing I'm kind of even more proud about is getting back to our core mission as a team, is that we gain these learnings for the larger organization, right? So by trying to kind of put this out in the market and understanding how audiences respond to it, we brought back quite a bit of learnings to determine product market fit. So what are those learnings? So I mentioned while I was showing the video, designing an AR has been a big learning. And what do kids enjoy about AR? What do they understand in AR, right? Do they understand that you have to walk through a portal in some experiences? Do they understand to look around themselves? And those are all things that we've been learning along the way and refining, so that kids really can understand it and can enjoy it. And we find out what works and what doesn't. And honestly, we get to come up with totally crazy fun ideas. That's the best part of the job. Another one, that kind of more quantitative learning, is the mobile AR adoption for kids. So kids are interesting when you think about the devices they get. Like, I'm sure most of the people at this virtual event, have pretty high-end devices, and we're kind of on the cutting edge of getting the latest iPhone or the latest Samsung or Google device. But kids get the second or third generation hand-me-downs from their parents. So AR capabilities, even though they seem like they've been around for a while for us on mobile, they're still fairly new to kids. And we're finding that this audience and this scale is growing and growing as kids continue to get older devices that actually have that capability. So we have a really good sense of where things stand with kids in terms of the devices that they have and what their functionalities are. And then lastly, we track with every new update that comes from ARKit. We're really eager to try this new technology out and see if it'll resonate with kids. And we have sort of a prototype version of the app that we are constantly doing user testing with. So things like occlusion or people occlusion or controls with your face that control the rear camera action, super exciting, and we continue to experiment with that. We actually are very discriminating about what we let go into the main app because we know that kids sometimes have challenges understanding how to do these things. So how do you instruct a kid how to do these new features or functions that come with AR Kit updates? But we continue to experiment in that. And we also know that their devices being a little bit older, some of these new features don't even necessarily work with enough of our audience. But we do keep our teeth sharp and constantly try to experiment with those new features that are super exciting. And then looking ahead, we want to keep expanding our learnings with Do Not Touch. Luckily, ViacomCBS is a super global company, and we're launching this in other regions. We just launched in Australia and New Zealand, and we're looking to launch even further into new territories where we'll learn more about some of those things, like what devices do folks have, kids have in Spain versus Brazil? What generation of the iPhone or iPad do they have? Are they predominantly Android? And we learn a lot through that. And in addition, kind of as a next step of that, we learn how to monetize the app. So the app is free. I encourage everyone to get it today. Please, it's awesome. Just download it. But we do look to opportunities to add sponsors into there. So our ad sales team is very eager to find advertisers who want to do AR advertisements in it. And we're excited to experiment with that too. And that's a great next stepping stone for this product as we look ahead, determining kind of that product market fit that I mentioned earlier. And then even kind of stepping back further, as I mentioned earlier, ViacomCBS is many, many brands. So Nickelodeon is just one of many. We have Comedy Central, Showtime, and others. So just we're looking at a lot of these brands as opportunities for AR products. So Comedy Central, we've talked about things about with election 2020. How could you make the election a little bit funnier potentially and less exhausting with AR via Comedy Central, and the way only they could do that and provide that lens on the election. For Noggin, that's one of our direct-to-consumer preschool apps, which is about education. How can we enhance education with AR? Super compelling use case. If you think about computer vision and object recognition and leveraging those to teach a kid about the world through their real space. So that's really exciting, and we have a lot going on there, as well as looking at brands in CBS Sports. We'll have the Super Bowl next year. What can we do to augment the Super Bowl to provide more real-time stats or potentially interactivity for that experience? Are all things that we're considering and are really excited and very fortunate to work on with this great family of brands. And then, of course, all the augmented reality feature updates and new technology that's coming, which is why we're joining this conference today and are eager to learn more from folks like you about new things in object recognition and new things with like the LiDAR sensor that's coming on new Apple devices. And what does that do to enhance the experience of AR and make it quicker and snappier, and facial recognition and facial scanning as well? And how can we make entertainment experiences with that? So that's just a little look at what my team does here at ViacomCBS in the Emerging Products Group. We're really excited to share this with you. Thank you for your time and listening to this. And I think, it's just an interesting thought to leave you with. The streaming wars are fully raging right now, but it's only a matter of time before they start embracing some of these new capabilities on the devices that they're finding themselves on. And that's what we're really looking at and really excited about, the future of storytelling as a result. So thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thanks, Tim. That was great. I guess a sort of big sort of global question. I mean, there's been lots of attempts to sort of add technology to the TV experience, down the years with like 3D and second screens and things like that. I mean, do you think that that this technology and particularly this generation that has grown up with handheld devices, are they different? Are they really going to go with this?
Yeah, I mean, I think we hope so. I think that's part of what our team does is we don't presume to know that answer. We're just trying to find out. And I think that's why we launch stuff to market. And certainly in the case of Do Not Touch, we've been really encouraged to see kids embrace augmented reality on mobile. And I think there's, even within that though, there's limitations like sense of vision or whatever the kind of analogy is of the past of super 3D. Like, we're not necessarily thinking that kids are going to use every AR feature or capability. In fact, there's many that we leave on the floor and kind of in prototype mode, because we don't think kids can figure out maybe how to use their camera a certain way, or they don't even understand occlusion. So it's sort of a lost feature on them. So we really try to be diligent about taking this technology and fine tuning it to that audience in sort of our development mode. And then when we launch to market, really solidify those learnings and try not to get ahead of ourselves and put out, super advanced feature sets that just will never simply be used by a kid, but they may be used with our other segments of our audiences at ViacomCBS, like the adult audiences on Comedy Central, for example, might embrace a totally different set of features. And so we really want to tailor them for the audiences that we're working with based on the brands that we're working with.
And a sort of related question, Eamon asks, are there any examples of games or features that you look to incorporate in the children's mobile AR app that you decided not to use?
I think there's a few that we've explored with the latest AR kit release, which was one that we're really excited about that we thought was really cool, which is like using your frontal camera to do facial controls that affect what comes out of what you're looking at through your rear camera. So if you're Godzilla and you sort of have this mouth in the foreground and there's helicopters buzzing around, you could open your mouth and actually crunch down on the helicopters. Sort of a complicated example, but really cool. Like you're actually using your face to control gameplay that you see sort of in your space. And that's an area that we've done some prototyping around that, but it's very hard for kids to understand. So that's an example. I forget what ARKit actually calls that specific feature, but that's an example of one that we're like, all right, this is great. We know it's cool. We know the potential is really high, but like at the moment, there's not a way to onboard a kid into that type of control or that feature that they would understand. We're kind of fine tuning that as we speak to be very specific.
That's great.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that was it. That was my answer. I think I could do that last little cliffhanger.
All right, no problem. No, well, thank you very much, Tim. That was really interesting. And there are some other questions, but I'm sure people can reach out to you via the social platforms. And thank you very much again.
Yeah, thank you. Sounds good. See you, Brian.